Hi everyone, this is Nevina Bajalat and welcome to the new episode of Building a Harmonious Family. And today my guest is Sabahat Ahmed, and Sabahat is based here in Dubai, and she will share her story. We will talk about dealing with personal loss, someone in your family, and dealing with grief, very important topics. So I want to invite you to stay here. And Sabahat is transformation and an NLP coach, and she will give us some tools and strategies for this very, very important topic. Sabahat, welcome to my episode, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Navina, for having me. It's my pleasure.
So you're mother of two, and I would love to know a little bit more of your story. So if you would like to share with us your journey of being a mother, and also we said we'll talk about coping with some personal losses in the family. So if you would be kind enough to share with us a little bit how that went and what happened in your life so far.
Oh, thank you, Navina. Yes, my journey has been a bit of a up and down. Like I'm sure all of us go through highs and lows in life. Um, I lost my father when I was 12, and my brother was 16. He was in the UK at that time, and my sister was 5.5. And my mother was in her mid-30s, and she had always been a housewife. And of course, none of us knew how to cope with that. At that point, we moved to the UK, and I started working when I was 13. Because we had no money, we were financially and emotionally very in a very difficult place, and everybody was kind of detached from each other. So we became street smart. We learned how to deal with our, how to go and get things that we need to get, how to deal with everything that comes our way. So we were kind of on our own, dealing with our own challenges. And just when you think that life is a bit settled, something happens and you go back to square one. So I then went back to Pakistan to start my medical school, and I missed my merit by 1 mark, and I ended up in pharmacy. So I am a pharmacist by degree, so I started working as a pharmacist. But in the second year, I was married through an arranged marriage, and my husband was much older than me. He was 13 years older. It was a generation gap. And we were just people from two different schools of thought and two different worlds. So we never had I wouldn't say it wasn't a bad marriage, but it wasn't a happy marriage. But the best thing that came out of that was my two boys. So now my older son is 26, turning 27 in September, inshallah, and my younger one's 21. So, and I officially separated in 2010, and I moved back to the UK. And that was again a very difficult time, leaving my home, leaving my social life, leaving my friends, leaving my job, and moving with two kids with no money, literally no place to stand on. So I went and did my, I went back to the UK. Nobody was willing to give us a place to rent because I had no job at that time. So eventually I found something and went on to do with my further studies. I did my master's. I started working in the prison as a part-time lecturer. That was that's a story on its own. So we'll talk about that sometime later. And while I was working, my only brother, was diagnosed with leukemia at that time in 2011. And the next 18 months were, a journey or a time where we went through hope and we went through not being hopeful. So he went through a series of chemo. My sister became the stem cell donor. He received the stem cell donation twice. So she had to go through that surgery twice because the first time it failed. So we saw him go through mood swings, hair loss, ups and downs. And the best thing of being there was that I was with him throughout that journey. And I think that is a blessing that I would never be able to forget. That's the gratitude I have, that I was there. And if I was in Pakistan, I would never have been able to spend that time with him. So that is one of the moments of gratitude I have. But we lost him in 2013. And again, it was, having lost my father and then another father figure a few years later wasn't really something that I could cope with. he was based here in Dubai. So I decided to move to Dubai to be closer to my sister, to be together as a family so we could cope with that. That was also a time where I had to leave my son behind, my older son behind. So there was multiple things going on, and suddenly 6 months, I felt like I had no ground. I felt like there was a dagger in my heart that was killing me every day because I could not get over the death of my brother, the loss of my brother. But I had to do something about it. I come from a family, and I think I inherited the genes which said, go get it, do it yourself. So I went on to start my healing journey. I found a job. It wasn't really a good job, but it was something to get by. And I started my healing journey through a trainer. I had a Russian trainer. I was doing some exercise classes with her, and she did a coaching certification from Russia. And she was offering some discounted sessions. And I took those sessions, and it just opened up completely new doors for me. I felt like I was able to stand on ground again. I was grounded. I knew what happened for a reason. I knew that there was a bigger purpose in life. So then gradually I found that I became an HR consultant. I joined a consulting firm, and I've been with them for 6 years. And professionally, I grew a lot. I went on to do my chartered membership of CIPD. And so I was doing something every year to just develop, just to heal, just to move forward. And in 2019, I came across the master's program for NLP hypnotherapy and life coaching, and from the UK, from NLP Coaching Academy in the UK. And I just felt that that was the thing for me, out of the blue. It was just like the universe sent it to me that I had to do it. So I went and did my practitioner's level, then I went and did my master's level, and I went thinking it is my own healing journey, or it would complement my HR work, my learning and development work. And I came back thinking, no, I'm now in a place where I need to now facilitate others to cope with similar losses, to find their purpose in life. So I started Ashmir. Actually, my oldest son did the practitioner's program with me. So together, his name is Amir, my middle name is Aisha. So together we set up Ashmir, which is a life coaching practice here in Dubai. We're based in JVC. And he's in the UK, so he was working there and I was working here. And it was, so our mission was to help others overcome these barriers, blocks, limiting beliefs, so they can live a more meaningful life. With that mission, we started Ashmir. And touch wood, with COVID, where there have been losses and there have been issues, and people have lost their jobs and lost their loved ones, and a lot of things have changed for us. But at the same time, it opened up an online avenue for me to help people across the globe. So I worked with people in Canada, I worked with people in Singapore, in Pakistan, in the UK, in Dubai, of course, across the globe. And I felt that I was able to contribute not only to spreading awareness, but also to facilitate other people to cope with the losses that they may have gone through. So in a nutshell, that is my story.
I love the story. It's such a powerful story. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. And sometimes we don't know the reason, but there is a journey, and our happiness is growth, right? So you clearly stated that when you started working on yourself, right? How much you start changing and how this development helped you. So Sabahat, I want to ask you, many listeners had personal loss, maybe parent, maybe child, maybe a brother, someone in the family, or maybe husband or wife. So what are some things they can do if they're going through a lot of grief, if they're going through maybe a lot of guilt? Sometimes guilt is connected with losing someone, if we haven't been there. What is something that you suggest, or some tools that you can give them to help them overcome that and cope with that better? Where should they start?
That's a very interesting question, because whenever we lose a loved one, people tell us, oh, it will be okay, time will heal. Trust me, time doesn't heal. It's been over 30 years since my father's loss. It's been over 8 years since my brother's loss. And I also lost my grandparents 6 months after my brother, both my maternal grandparents. And of course, a lot of losses in the family. But time doesn't heal. It is you who has to heal yourself. If you suppress your grief, it's not going to go away. So you have to be able to give yourself time to grieve, time to connect with your loved ones, the family that is grieving with you, communicate with them, and make sure that you actually express your grief. Give it, verbalize it, give it words, and identify what is it that you're feeling. And you're right, people sometimes end up in guilt. My sister was a stem cell donor for my brother, and I never realized that she felt guilt, that if she was 100% matched, and she felt that if she wasn't a donor, he may have got it for someone else and he may have survived. And only recently I found out, through one of the healing circles that I do, that she was carrying that guilt, but that guilt wasn't really hers. It came from within the family system, because as a family we have carried guilt over generations of something or the other. So all our emotions are interconnected. One emotion leads to another, but when we have losses like this in the family, it just triggers something from within us that wants us to take a step forward. you know People who have gone, we will be following them at some point. That's the circle of life. But they are in a better place. I saw my brother suffer, literally at the end, when he was going through, the last few weeks. I saw him throw up blood in my hands, and that is the moment that I can never forget. But it's okay, I was there. I was able to be with him. I was able to hold his hand. And I think that is what gives me comfort, that he was not alone. His family was with him. So coping with loss is not easy. As therapists, we use multiple techniques. We use NLP, hypnotherapy. We use NNRT, which is very, very effective in PTSD and trauma healing. It's based on bilateral eye movements combined with NLP and so on. So it is a very, very effective technique. But please do not push your grief away. That's the only message that I will give. If you need help, reach out to the people who are close to you. If you need more help, reach out to professional help. There's so many people out there who can help you through that trauma, but don't suffer in silence. Don't suppress your guilt. Heal, and don't think it's going to be a miracle. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a journey. Let that journey happen. Be patient with it.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you for that. And how they can, if they feel sometimes through a loss, we feel like we disconnect with our family members. And you talked through your journey, you haven't been so connected. Maybe the illness brought you a little bit more together, right? But because of your childhood and everything happening, right, you were not so close. And sometimes in grief, I can see that people also disconnect. Sometimes they're putting blame. They don't know how to cope with their own emotions. So sometimes even between parents and children, when a parent lost someone, they simply have all this amount of negative emotions that they express it negatively towards the children or someone in the family. So if that's happening, what are the signs of that, and how they can really act very quickly to shift this, because this is not the way to go, right? To destroy relationships that are left around us. What would you say here?
It's very interesting you bring that up, because I have seen my mother go through the same thing. And when my father passed away, she was 36. Has had no understanding of what, how cruel the world can be, or even to how to go out and earn money. And my father was a government servant. He was an orthopedic surgeon, very, very good at his work. And everybody thought that he had loads of money stashed somewhere, which he didn't. So, living with a very, very little pension with 3 kids was very difficult. And she was very emotionally distraught. She had lost her partner, her soulmate, and they had a lovely marriage. And since then, she has been very closed. She's been in a victim state. Yes. And when my brother passed away, and both my brother and my father passed away at the age of 43, both of them. So I had very similarities. They had very similar lives, and they were very successful, but both of them passed away at 43. So it was a very young age. So when the same thing happened to my brother, she just became very closed. And she's over 70 now. You can't really teach them to connect with themselves. I got her to do some sessions with a coach friend of mine. So she opened up a bit. And she had these real expectations from us that we were unable to fulfill, me and my sister. And yes, we were disconnected because when we were growing up, we didn't have phones and internet and mediums of communication, so we had to wait months before we could speak to each other. And my sister's 7 years younger than me, so even there was an age difference, but we've now bonded so well. And so grief brought us together rather than disconnected. But my mother remains disconnected, and I'm working on it. It's about making sure that you make them feel that you're there when they need to talk to somebody. Not hovering over them, not harassing them in a way that they have to open up, but understanding the situation. Losing a child is not easy. As a mother, I can never even imagine that, God forbid, I would ever have to come across that kind of situation. So I empathize with my mother. I understand what she is going through. But if somebody tells you, I know how you feel, that's not true. Your feelings are true to yourself. So what you feel, it's about connecting to yourself and understanding how you feel. Are you feeling sadness? Are you feeling grief? Are you feeling guilt? Are you feeling shame? What is the feeling that is under that grief? Yeah. So it's a lot to do with how you connect to yourself.
Yeah, it's always that work. We are both coaches, so we know it's always that work we have to do on ourselves. And once a person accepts that, everything changes, like it changed for you. So I think this was very helpful, because sometimes I think parents simply don't know how to cope with it, like you said. But of course, you are, you're grown and you work on yourself to start understanding that. But I think I see it really, being someone who worked with families, and I still work with families a lot, I can see really also children having now anger towards the parents, why they were not there for them, why they didn't show up. Some parents become depressed after this loss. They don't know how to cope with it. So it's just this message to send for everyone listening is, do your best for yourself. And if you have children, for your children, they need you. And also for those, if you have this guilt towards your parents, we cannot be in their shoes, right? They're doing the best they can with the tools and awareness they have. So we can try push them into learning about themselves, developing, and becoming more joyful and happy. But like you said, you have to be patient and just be there for her.
And there's just one little thing I want to mention here, that when a family goes through a loss and there are younger kids involved, please talk to those kids. My sister was 5. She has no memories of my father, right? But nobody came up to her or me to say, don't worry, we are here for you. Everybody was kind of, oh, poor kids, they've lost their father. That was the kind of conversations that were going on. But nobody came and held our hand and said, don't worry, we're here for you.
Yeah.
So please talk to the kids, understand their feelings. Otherwise, they're just going to build them up, and it's going to impact when they grow up. So it's very important to speak to kids when you go through a loss as a family, and help them understand why that is happening.
Yes. Well, this is so helpful. Thank you, Sabahat, so much for being here and sharing this with us. We're going to make sure to put a link to Sabahat's website and how you can connect with her in the description of this episode. So make sure to connect, reach out. If you know someone who goes through a loss, you can reach out to her and her son, who are coaches. And don't try to cope everything on yourself. Really, really ask for help, because it's going to help you go and feel better much, much faster. Thank you, Sabahat, once again for being here. I want to thank all the listeners for listening. Make sure to subscribe, download, share this episode with others so they can benefit as well. I will see you in the next one.